Hey everybody, it's Derek here. We're going to take a look at the news from the 13th to the 19th of September 2021. So, full disclosure here, this is the third time I've had to record this video because microphones don't want to work sometimes. I guess we'll see how it goes here. If I'm very curt or very short with some of these articles, that's why. Okay? Anyway, moving on. Activision being shitheads. So Activision have been accused of repeatedly engaging in unlawful conduct. So the unlawful conduct here is that they are preventing or threatening their employees if they try to build a union. Pretty much, if they try to discuss labor practices, discuss their salaries and so on. Activision have been accused of threatening people with their job, with, you know, punishment and so on. So the a better AKB, the prototype union, I guess, for Activision, have made a claim against Activision along with the Communications Workers of America, which are sort of an umbrella group who are trying to move unions in, pretty much. They're basically saying they've been interfering with it, so it is illegal for companies to interfere with employees' rights to self-organize and form labor unions, so the lawsuit is they're in breach of that, pretty much. The group, A Better ABK, announced the move today, saying it filed a complaint in partnership with Code CWA, CWA's group specifically working to bring unions to tech, game, and other digital industries in the US and Canada. If the NLRB, that is the National Labor Relations Board, rules in our favor, the ruling will be retroactive and we will set a precedent that no worker in the US can be intimidated out of talking about forced arbitration. Undoing forced arbitration was one of the demands that A Better ABK made to Activision Blizzard in the wake of the California Department for Fair Employment and Housing suit, you know, the sexual harassment and fair pay thing that Activision and Blizzard are also dealing with at the moment. One of the demands was an end to forced arbitration. That was along with making sure there are policies to improve representation among employees at all levels, publication of compensation data for employees of all genders and ethnicities, and a third-party audit of the company's HR department and executive staff. None of these have happened. And in fact, the forced arbitration thing, they're having to sue separately, which is what this article is about. The article was later updated with the actual publicly available file, which we can have a look at here. It's very brief. It's a one-page PDF. Most of it is administrative stuff like name, employer, address, emails, that kind of thing. The main thrust of it is this section here. So, basis of the charge. Within the last 6 months, the above-named employer has repeatedly engaged in unlawful conduct by threatening employees in the exercise of the rights guaranteed by Section 7. So the above-named employer here is Activision Blizzard Inc., Blizzard Entertainment, and Activision Publishing, all as one single employer. So their whole thing. And Section 7 is the union-busting stuff. The employer has threatened employees that they cannot talk about or communicate about wages, hours, and working conditions. So you can't even ask, you know, your fellow employee, how much do you make? What hours do you work? What are your working conditions like? You can't even talk to your fellow co-workers about that, apparently, as far as Activision are concerned. Told employees they cannot communicate with or discuss ongoing investigations of wages, hours, and working conditions. They can't even talk about the other lawsuit that's going on at the moment. Maintained an overly broad social media policy, which was basically a blanket gag order, more or less. Enforced the social media policy against employees who have engaged in protected concerted activity. So people who were lobbying on social media, so the A Better ABK Twitter account and whoever runs it. They were attempting to enforce this policy against them. Threatened or disciplined employees on account of... Did I skip one? No. Threatened or disciplined employees on account of protected concerted activity, so threaten their job or punish them, discipline them in some way, even though this is a protected thing that they're allowed to do. Engaged in surveillance of employees engaged in protected concerted activity, so they kept tabs on them too. and engaged in interrogation of employees about protected concerted activity. So they were like, hey, why are you trying to make a union? Stop making a union. Stop doing it. Why are you trying to do it? Everybody loves working here. Don't look at all our multiple lawsuits out against us. And the employee representative is, of course, Bobby Kotick. So this part of the article more or less just outlines what was in that one-page PDF, if you care to read it. And then Tom Smith, National Organizing Director at CWA, commented he's behind ABK and, you know, he's going to help them fight for all the stuff that they should have. But also he made a point that management could have responded with humility and a willingness to take necessary steps to address the horrid conditions some ABK workers have faced. Instead, Activision Blizzard's response to righteous worker activity was surveillance, intimidation, and hiring notorious union busters. That'd be the WilmerHale attorney group that they hired to help with their HR problem, despite them having a reputation for union busting and absolutely not helping with HR stuff. And I need this drink. Normally I don't drink during videos, but I need this now because my throat's getting pretty raw after having to record this a couple of times, so apologies for the slurping. Okay. It's just tea anyway. Okay, so again, it's kind of a quiet week for stuff, but there was THQ Nordic did have their 10th anniversary showcase on Friday evening, or Friday during the day, or Friday in the middle of the night. I guess it depends on what time zone you're around. They showed off a couple of games, so they were resurrecting a couple of IPs while they were at it. Probably their biggest one is that they're remaking Destroy All Humans 2. So Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed will be a full remake of the 2006 game. They're more or less just porting it over to Unreal Engine 4 and obviously upping all the assets and so on, maybe adding a couple of new modes and things like that. Oddly enough, they don't have the trailer for that for some reason. They just have this very small amount of gameplay that they just decided to show. I don't even think this was even in the showcase itself. I think this is previous footage anyway. And they showed a bit of SpongeBob SquarePants, The Cosmic Shake. So this is a new entry for like the SpongeBob 3D platformer type thing. The actual trailer itself doesn't go into any gameplay. It just uses the meme Winner Takes It All song. Shows a couple of different, if you're familiar with the cartoon, a couple of different scenarios and stuff, and different SpongeBob characters. So I guess the idea is that SpongeBob will be going through a lot of different locations and that kind of thing. I don't know. It seems like it's another like a sequel to the SpongeBob 3D platformer that was remastered a while ago. Name I absolutely forget. So that was one. Then they showed Outcast 2. Outcast 2, A New Beginning, is a kind of resurrection of the Outcast IP. It's a pretty old IP. I only ever knew the name. I don't even know what kind of game it was. I think it was ostensibly you were like a space marine type guy dropped onto a planet and you needed to help liberate it from enemy alien type things. I don't know. The actual footage that they showed during the showcase was a big overview of the world. A lot of really nice shots. It actually looks really good. I think the actual game premise storyline feels a bit Avatar to me. And you do get a lot of Avatar vibes just from the general makeup of the area and some of the alien characters and stuff like that. Actual main character, I think, is shown off very briefly. There's a very tiny amount of gameplay right at the end of this trailer somewhere. It seems your enemies will be mostly these kind of robot-like things. Here's your main character, Cutter Slade, who's he's a bit kind of like a, I don't know. He's got a bit Nathan Drake, but Nathan Drake who's sort of fed up with the whole thing, kind of thing, kind of vibe to him. As you saw, there was a very tiny amount of gameplay there, so it looks like it's an over-the-shoulder thing with this shield that he carries around. Again, never played the original. It's like nearly 20 years old now or something at this point, so would never have been a thing I would have been interested in. Jagged Alliance is again another resurrection of an old IP. It is a strategy tactics game. It's a bit like it's like a grid-based, like it's XCOM. I was trying to avoid saying it was XCOM, but it's XCOM. You'll see in a minute why, the gameplay-wise. XCOM itself is a pretty old IP that was kind of resurrected recently. I know, well, I suppose, how recent do you want to go with it? 10 years or something like that? But it's the same deal. It's a grid-based party strategy type thing. All right, so they have, again, a little bit of gameplay here at the end. As you can see, it's very much XCOM. It's very XCOM, but it is, I guess, a little bit more set in the real world as opposed to XCOM's kind of alien invasion stuff. So chances are, if you liked XCOM, you'll probably like this. The real world stuff, maybe you mightn't be all that interested in. Superpower 3's trailer showed no gameplay, but I believe it's like a Civ game, except set in modern times. So you don't have the progression through history. It's just we're in modern times. And you're playing a superpower, so, you know, whatever, the US, Russia, China. The trailer doesn't really show a whole lot. It's mostly a tone setter. I'll have zero interest in that game, to be perfectly honest. And the MXV, this trailer, because I've again done this video a couple of times now, this trailer shows nothing. It's almost all like very slow moving images, and it is a very short trailer. But yeah, there'll be another MX versus ATV game. They also showed a bit of Elex 2, which for some reason they don't have a trailer for in this article. Elex is a kind of sci-fi RPG kind of thing, which always looks more interesting than it plays, in my opinion. But otherwise, the only thing I'm really interested in for THQ, or THQ Nordic, is in general Darksiders, and there was nothing about Darksiders in the showcase. There was a statuette behind Jeff Keighley. That was it. New releases for this week. There were a lot of new games dropped this week. So the first one that's going around the Twitters and social media, lots of press, lots of coverage, lots of reviews. Sony really pushing it as well because it's pretty much their only exclusive for the rest of the year. So a lot of games got pushed back. So this is Deathloop, which is a first-person immersive sim roguelike where you basically have a day to kill 6 bosses, more or less. 6 named, we'll say, characters. But you don't know where they are on the island. Their routine changes depending on the time of day, and there's a lot of enemies in the way that want to kill you, too. Because they don't want this loop to end. You're effectively stuck in a permanent day that just Groundhog Days you after the end of the day, or if you die, which this is what's going to happen probably much all the time. So it's a bit of a puzzle slash first person. It feels like it's a first person shooter here, but it is by the people who made Dishonored and Arcane. So you may probably know there's going to be a lot more to it than that. It does also have some additional wrinkles that there is a second character who is dedicated to just stopping you from fulfilling your task of trying to take out all the bosses. And they can show up randomly and just derail your whole thing, and you'll just have to try to figure it out on the fly. There's also a multiplayer component that players can become that character and again show up and ruin your day. I will almost certainly be playing the game single player because of that. That's Deathloop. Then we have Eastward. Again, all of these trailers are nearly at the end of the video because again, I've been playing this, or this isn't the first time I've recorded this fucking video. Anyway, Eastward, which I had a look at in the indie showcase, which didn't show off a whole lot, and this trailer is much the same. It is like a full animation as opposed to actual gameplay, but Eastward is it's kind of Zelda-like, kind of Earthbound sort of game. Fairly gorgeous pixel art if we get to it. It looks really, really good. Everything I've seen about it, like there's been little pieces of it coming out on Twitter and in press over the years, and all of it has always looked interesting. So I've been really interested to play this game for a long time now. So it is now out on Switch and PC, and I'm gonna play it eventually. Probably not right away because there's a lot on my plate, but I'll get to it eventually. We have Tales of Iron, which is a side-scrolling melee combat game. It's a pretty rough type of game. It's a bit more like something like Death's Gambit or Assault and Sanctuary or Dark Souls, if you like, or Hollow Knight, 2D kind of thing. Although I don't think you have as much mobility as something like Hollow Knight, so it's pretty grim mouse rat guy working his way through the world, killing enemies, trying to survive. There's probably a story somewhere. But yeah, combat is a bit rough. I think you die fairly often and so on. It's that kind of thing. But some pretty good art and some pretty interesting setups. Like there was that rat there whose weapon was a steel chair, which is pretty interesting. Something to look at. It's a small shame that it's out at the same time as a lot of games that I'm very interested in. I actually knew very little of Tales of Iron until I saw a trailer for it, more or less. Severed Steel. Severed Steel is out on PC at the moment. It is a first-person shooter that is very fast-paced, very parkour-focused, very I look cool, sliding about the place kind of thing. You only have one hand that can hold a gun, and I think you have a prosthesis on your other arm that can be swapped out to have different things on it, but essentially I don't think you can reload the gun, I think is the kind of the premise behind the game. So you're constantly on the move and throwing away weapons and picking up new weapons and that kind of thing. It looks very fast-paced and very, very cool, and I think that is the idea, that you're trying to look cool all the time. Currently on PC only at the moment. I'm hoping it hits consoles at some point, because I don't often get the chance to play PC games. It's much easier for me to just turn on a console. Anyway, we have Aragami 2. Go back to the start, please. Aragami 2. I wonder if there's is there a YouTube shortcut for play from the beginning? I should probably check that out. So Aragami 1 was always a kind of interesting game to me in that it was very Tenchu. It was like a new gen Tenchu type game. Ninja stealth game, basically. But the controls were kind of clunky, and to be fair, Tenchu's controls were also clunky. But you kind of expect that game design would have moved on from then, and it just felt kind of slow, I guess. It always felt like I was fighting the game rather than like the challenge of the stealth itself. The second game is taking a kind of co-op approach, and the game itself has gotten considerably faster. But now I don't like the co-op. Now I don't like the co-op multiplayer stuff, because how can you do a co-op stealth game? You're just asking for problems, IMO. But yeah, it does seem like it is playing a little bit more into the combat side of things instead, so I guess we'll see how that goes. I'm interested to see it, although I will probably wait to see other people play it rather than get it myself. And then last one we're going to look at is Toem, which was on an indie showcase for Nintendo a while ago. It's a very kind of cozy puzzle photography type game where you're given like quests to find like particular scenes and setups, or maybe you need to make the setup kind of thing and take the picture, or just interact with people, hang out, chat. It's a very cozy comfort type game. Like it's not like high stakes or high paced or anything like that. So, you know, it's a big chill out time kind of thing. Okay, it is now time to once again talk about the worst parts of video games, the video game industry. Okay, so this is kind of just a throwback to last week. Epic versus Apple, the courtroom case finished up. Epic lost massively, epically even, if you like, and basically they're appealing, as I said they would, and as I imagine pretty much everyone expected, they're appealing the ruling. That's it. It was assumed they were going to do it, and this just sort of, yeah, highlights it. That's it. There's nothing else to really say about it. They lost 9 out of 10 of their accusations against Apple, the antitrust, anti-competition stuff. The judge threw that out. All they gave them was that Apple need to tell people that you can buy things elsewhere and not just on the iOS marketplace. That's all they want. I'm gonna take another slurp now. Delicious. Not really. It's actually kind of cold now. Anyway, moving on. eFootball, which is the follow-up to Pro Evolution Soccer, or rather the transition phase from a fully packaged game into a free-to-play title. Also has a $40 DLC pack that you can't use for another 2 months. So you're effectively, you are pre-ordering loot boxes right now. A $40 loot box is what you're pre-ordering. So what do you get? What do you get for your $40 that you can't use until November at some point? You get the game, which is already free to play. So I think it would already be assumed you have the game, but whatever. 6 chance deals, which are random gacha pulls for players, more or less, real people. Almost 3,000 eFootball coins, which are probably the shit currency, or maybe they're the good currency, I don't know. And a further 2 chance deals if you pre-order the pack, so you can get 8, I suppose, if you get it right now. And that entitles you to the chance deals. Sorry, none of the chance deals or the eFootball coins can be used until after the update in November. So there's a scheduled update that they will release the modes that can actually use these things, but you won't be able to do it until November, because the game will launch soon enough, and it may have already launched actually, but all that's available is like friendlies, like single games kind of thing. It's very bare bones, which is unfortunately the way some of these games are turning. Service type games, they release as little as possible, minimal viable product, and then they add stuff on top and nickel and dime you all the way through it, breadcrumbing you. It's very shitty practice. But anyway, a chance deal is basically spin the wheel and you'll get one of 16 top tier ambassador and partner club players. So ostensibly the 16 best players in the game. That's what a chance deal is. Now, what's been the description as it was on the website, which has since been removed, we'll look at that in a minute, it's since been removed, that each time you run a chance deal, you will get a different player. So you won't get duplicates, basically. Which, yeah, that's good, and definitely preferred in a gacha system. The problem is, and this may be why they have since removed this wording of it, is that if you just buy 2 of these packs, now that's $80, right? It's very pay to win, but if you buy 2 of those packs, you'll get, if you buy them now rather, you'll get 8 chance deals per pack. That's 16 chance deals, and there's only 16 players in the first place. And every time you run it, you get a different player, which means you're guaranteed to get all 16. Which is possibly why they've removed the description. I think they might have rode back on that one. I think you might be getting duplicates. Because that is kind of how they sustain the chance deals, the gacha roulette stuff, is that there's a big roster of characters, usually. You know, dragons that can turn into buxom women for whatever reason. Don't ask questions. Or Lionel Messi, X2 with horns, something like that. And they'll have a big roster of that, and they will all have a chance of showing up, but they'll all have different drop rates, and you'll have to keep pumping money into it to get the character you want, to get Lionel Messi with a pink shirt or whatever you're looking for, or Ronaldo, but he has the Ronaldo bust face instead. I'd almost get that myself. That kind of thing, but the idea is that it's random, so you can get duplicates. You won't necessarily get the one you want. The one you want is probably 0.0001% chance of dropping. That's how they keep getting you to pay money for it, right? If you can guarantee to get it at 16 and you'll get all 16 of them, why would you put any more money into it? You've already gotten it. You've gotten exactly what you wanted out of it. So I'd say that has been taken down just so they can give you duplicates, basically. That's my interpretation of it, in my opinion. But in general, the whole system is, like, the gacha shit shouldn't be in it. eFootball should be just Pro Evolution Soccer 2022 and just leave it at that. It was working fine. You don't need to do this shit. Okay. Former Bungie composer Marty O'Donnell found in contempt of court over use of Destiny assets. So, you may or may not know Marty O'Donnell. Marty O'Donnell is the guy who did the Halo theme, basically. That's his claim to fame, and he was, at the beginning, he was the composer for Destiny 1 while it was still in development. He did an album called Music of the Spheres, which was used as the basis for Destiny's music. But Destiny's development Destiny 1 rather, and Destiny 2's development as well. It was not great. It was pretty ropey. Activision were constantly sticking their head in to be like, why aren't you hitting the milestones, and we need to market this stuff and it's not ready, we need to show it off the press and so on. They had a press event that had no gameplay in it, which was a kind of a big deal at the time. It was like, we don't even know what the gameplay is like and you're giving us all this shit. Anyway, he was fired from Bungie shortly after E3, I think. One of the E3s before the game was released. There was a trailer for Destiny 1 shown off that had none of his music. I think it had no input from Bungie at all. It was pretty much an entire Activision thing. And Bungie themselves were pretty pissed off about it, but they were, you know, kind of beholden to Activision, so they voiced their complaints internally but kept their mouth shut externally, except for Marty, who put out a tweet just as the trailer was going up, or maybe just before the trailer was going up, but to point out that, you know, this is all Activision, Bungie had no hand in it, kind of thing. Let's just say the Activision board weren't particularly pleased with him about that. And then a little later on, he was fired. He sued Bungie for unfair dismissal, which he won, because it absolutely was unfair dismissal. But as part of that unfair dismissal, he had to return any assets that Bungie owned, and Bungie do own the IP to Music of the Spheres and any music he would have made while he was at Bungie and so on. So he had to return all of that, give up his rights to it, and not, disseminate it. I can't think of the word I actually wanted to use, but he can't put it up anywhere and try to make money off it and so on. Except he totally did. This is what the contempt of court thing is that he has violated that thing. He has posted the music from Music of the Spheres. He's posted like prototype music, sketch work or something for music. I didn't think you could do that. How do you sketch music? Anyway, that kind of thing. In development kind of music, I suppose. And he's posted that to his YouTube. It's been on Bandcamp, SoundCloud, a couple of different places. So, number one, he shouldn't have been in a position to actually post anything, because he shouldn't be in possession of any of this stuff anymore. He was supposed to hand it all over. And it was signed off that he had handed it all over. You know, he had agreed to it. So that's stage one of that injunction. He absolutely shouldn't even have these assets in the first place. And then part two, he posted that shit up online. Then the additional issue is that people can obviously scrape websites and get those assets for themselves. So who knows how many people have downloaded it. So trying to protect their own IP. And then also Bandcamp, SoundCloud, you make money off it. YouTube monetization as well. He shouldn't be making money off stuff that's not his IP. He has an injunction against him for doing that and so on. So he's violating his court order. So he has to pay lots of money back to Bungie for doing that. And he also has to take all of that stuff down from YouTube, from Bandcamp, from SoundCloud. Now he's already done that. That's all been taken down. But Bungie also want him to post a message, a kind of mea culpa. I'm sorry I broke the law putting up all this stuff. Please, if you have downloaded any of these things, please delete all of those assets. You're not supposed to have them. And I'm not going to return any of your money. Or he is going to return any of his money. I don't know. I don't think there's anything about that exactly. Anyway, he hasn't done that part. He's taken down all the stuff, but he hasn't come clean about why all of that stuff had to be taken down. This is sort of reflected in his Twitter account, which he had deleted. He has in fact actually deleted his Twitter account, but he has restored it now. And there were some tweets have now been deleted from it itself. So the account is back, but some tweets are gone that probably pertain to this legal issue. I'm thinking about retiring from the games industry for good. That's been deleted. He may be forced to shut down his YouTube channel. That's been deleted. And then when asked why he has to do these things, he replied, "Ask Pete Parsons, who is the CEO of Bungie." That tweet has also been deleted. The only one he's left up is, "Please buy my stuff. I need it for my legal bills." Like, you absolutely brought this upon yourself, Chief. Whatever for his unfair dismissal, he won that. legally, and from what I read on it, sounds like yeah, he should have, but you did this shit all to yourself. All of this, he has to pay 100k. I'm not sure if it's in this article, but it's in one of the articles. But yeah, 100,000 plus legal fees and a bunch of other stuff. So you fucked yourself over on that one, Chief. Okay, Twitch changes its refund policy to avoid chargebacks. So this is kind of a step Twitch is taking. It's a very small step, but it's taking a step to remedy some of the pain points that content creators are getting. Now, it's not addressing the big one, which is like hate raids and harassment, racism, that kind of thing. It's not addressing that part. It's addressing a smaller issue, but it does hit the wallet of a lot of content creators. So there's an issue going around that people subscribe to a channel, they wait to get their shout out. You know, thanks for subscribing, XX loves to spooge 69. They get their shout out, and then a couple of minutes later they refund or charge back the subscription, which takes money out of the content creator's wallet. It doesn't come out of Twitch's wallet. That's a problem. There's also a fee associated with that, so they're losing. It's not that they got the whatever it was to subscribe and then just lost it again. So, you know, net zero. It's not net zero because they're also charged then for the chargeback. So content creators losing money, and not only that, but they held up their end of the bargain of the parasocial bargain of mentioning the person, saying their name on the stream, saying thanks to them, letting everyone else on the stream know about them, and delaying gameplay for 5 seconds or whatever. I don't know. I'm fine with subscribing to people. I don't necessarily need to have my name read out. I don't care, really. Mostly because... Do you ever listen to other people's names being called out? And like, hey, that guy, yeah, whatever. It's like, no, you're gonna listen to it if it's your name. That's about it. I guess that's what they get out of it, but then immediately charging back is obviously a big shithead move. So the new rules are meant to prevent that, and the way they're going to do it is they're going to review your account's history of refund requests. So have you made a lot of refund requests? Do you do it immediately after subscribing to somebody, and so on and so forth? And if you have a big history of that, chances are you won't get the refund. Or rather, you won't get it immediately. I imagine you'll still be able to appeal it, because even if you are someone who is a serial requester or a chargebacker, chances are you may have a legitimate reason for that one time. So, who knows? The issue there is, while this is a good step, the issue here is that it's very easy to make a new account on Twitch. And that's part of the reason that the hate raids and the harassment stuff is so hard to deal with for Twitch. Is that it's very easy to just make a new account. So you can ban an account, but you can very easily get another account up very quickly. So there may not be much of a history for these refund requests, is the issue. So it's a good step, but I think there's an underlying problem that this should probably deal with first. Okay, moving on. So this is a kind of a PSA, but I'm hopefully most of you don't need to hear this, but NFTs are a big scam. Okay, so here's an example of why. So there's a game that was advertising itself called Epic Hero Battles, which was supposed to be a blockchain-based game, whatever the hell that means, and it's selling 10,000 NFTs that consisted of a randomly generated hero and their pet, which could then be put into the battle to win more NFTs, basically. The problem is, this artwork was not a randomly generated character and their pet, it was stolen art. So Dan Hines, or Hines, works on, is the artist for Wildfire. It's a game that's out since last year or so. Don't know much about it myself. I just saw the tweet. But here is the landing page for Epic Hero Battles, right? So you've got this guy, he's overlooking a pixel landscape, he's got a torch in his hand, so on. Okay? Cool. Here's the store page for Wildfire. Hey, we got a guy with a torch in his hand looking over a pixelated landscape. Huh. They look identical. which is what Dan Hines thought, and he, you know, that made it that got a lot of press. There's a lot of likes on it, replies, a lot of retweets. I saw it. I don't follow Dan. You know, it made the rounds. Epic Hero Battles creators removed the art from their page, and they said, "Hi guys, I want to tell you about the art that was used on the site. We got it from the web dev. Haha, that guy, he really got us. But we didn't check it because we're bad at our job, or we're well aware he stole it. Our mistake. This won't happen again, honestly." It happened again. So, since the theft of Wildfire's assets out in the open... With the theft of Wildfire's assets out in the open, other folks started going around Epic Heroes Battles website and Twitter account and found more art that had been stolen. So, among a great many other things, but one, their Twitter profile pic, stolen. The art for their roadmap, stolen. Rather than try to respond to these fresh allegations of theft, or perhaps be forced to put in even the slightest amount of their own work, they just deleted the account entirely. The Twitter account is gone. The website has been scrubbed of all artwork. It's just a big grey blob at the moment. But yeah, here's your public service announcement to not go anywhere near NFTs. Okay, so I'm gonna have a slurp. That's just getting colder. Okay, cold tea, gross. LittleBigPlanet servers. Okay, so the LittleBigPlanet servers had for a while been being hit with DDoS attacks. They have been very sluggish. Managing to upload stuff or play online has been very difficult. So in May, Sony just shut down all the servers for LittleBigPlanets 1, 2, and 3, and the Vita one. Players they could kind of guess why, because of like it had been ropey up until that point, but they had no idea what was the plan, like when was it going to come back and so on. So if you're not familiar with LittleBigPlanet, LittleBigPlanet is it's kind of a 3D platform game, but it is in more places it is a content creation game, in that people and players can make their own games, can make their own experiences, and there are some very talented people out there who have made some really interesting stuff on LittleBigPlanet. Dreams is by the same developer and it has the same idea in that it is mostly a content creation toolset. So not being able to access the servers means you had no access to any of the community stuff. You could only play the single player stuff, and the single player game is fine, but it's absolutely not what the draw for LittleBigPlanet is for a lot of people who are still playing it on PS3 and Vita. Basically, the community stuff, the community created stuff is what they want. That's what they want to see. Anyway, out of nowhere, the servers were turned back on, but only for the PS4 version. The PS3 and the PS Vita versions, those servers are never going back on. Whatever it is that is causing the DDoS attack, whatever it is that's causing the sluggishness, I guess they can't fix it. Problem that the community has, other than this being a whole game preservation thing, other than the community being so invested in it that people do keep their PS3s and Vitas specifically so they can keep making stuff for LittleBigPlanet. They won't be able to anymore because the servers are gone. They won't be able to get their stuff, the stuff they've made, they can't access it because Sony don't allow you to self-host. Sony don't allow you to download that content and keep it for yourself. Sony don't allow you to archive your things. It's entirely on their own server, which is a problem for game preservation. Because as soon as Sony pull the plug on those servers, or those servers die or whatever, all that stuff's gone. Right, so from a game preservation standpoint, this is shit. From a consumer standpoint, you've just lost a sizable chunk and a sizable draw of the product. Like they've taken a huge chunk of that game away. You still have access to anything you paid for, like the DLC packs, the level packs, that kind of thing. And LittleBigPlanet has a lot of DLC stuff, costumes and things like that. You can still access them. You can still play the single player portion, but you can't touch anything online if you're on PS3 or Vita. You can if you're on PS4. Now, all of the game platforms, they all share the same server environment. Like, any level you could play on the PS3 version, you could play it on the PS4 version. Like a community creations go between all of them. Not too sure about the Vita version, but definitely for PS3 and PS4. So if you have a PS4, you're fine. If you made something on the PS3 version, the PS3 version has been shut down, but you own a PS4, you'll have to buy LittleBigPlanet again if you want to get access to your stuff. Not good. Now, big criticism is, one, from a consumer standpoint, they've just chopped up like considerable value of that title, and the other issue is that Sony said nothing about it. They just shut down the servers, and now like last week they turned the PS4 one back on. That's it. No messaging, no talking to the community, nothing. Just, this is our decision unilaterally, which has been kind of par for the course for Sony recently, which isn't great. But talking about the game preservation stuff, Hideki Kamiya was being interviewed, and there was a lot of different topics were brought up, like Bayonetta 3 and what's happening with Platinum. Are you ever going back to PlayStation? Are you gonna unban me on Twitter? And so on. But buried in the interview, they had a brief kind of talk about the retro game market and the potential market manipulation around that and that kind of thing. But in there, he argued that if the IP owners of classic games made more efforts to keep them available on modern systems, this would be less of an issue, this being the ridiculous prices that retro games are going for. Now, there is rumor, speculation that there's some market manipulation going on there, and that's not like the true worth of those games, but either way, if you want to play a retro game right now, you will have to pay a shit ton of money if you really want to. He does point out that he's a collector himself, and he likes to have like the game in its sealed package, and he can, like, you know, put it on his shelf or whatever. But also, as a fan, it's a problem if somebody wants to play a game but they can't get it because it's being traded in these ridiculous marketplaces. And the responsibility for keeping those games available belongs to the company that owns the IP. If people want to play a classic game and they can't because it's not available on new platforms and can't be found in its original form either, that's a threat. It's holding game culture back. The people who own the rights to these games should be actively making moves to preserve game culture and making games available to everyone who wants to play them. Yes! Preach! This is what I've been saying. So, for Platinum's part, they have been trying to keep their games on par with current generation systems. So Wonderful 101 was recently remastered and re-released for Switch, PS4, which will be backwards compatible on PS5, and PC. Now, getting it on PC is kind of the big deal. If you can manage to get your game on PC, that goes a long way to getting it preserved. If you can manage to also get it to run on Linux, that's even better, because so many systems could then run it, and it could be hosted and preserved for a really long time. Keeping it locked to a proprietary console exclusive titles. While they shift consoles, they do nothing for game preservation. That's the real problem. There's a lot of games that are exclusive to the PS3 that are going to be a very, very difficult recovery process just because of the architecture of that console and so on. So having the newer consoles be more like PCs is a good start. But console exclusive games in general are the opposite of preservation. Okay, we're gonna finish off with some dumb stuff. So we're not done with Blizzard. So as we said at the start, Blizzard, or Activision Blizzard, are kind of having a sexual harassment frat boy problem at their company. And what are they doing to change that? They're covering some cleavage inside World of Warcraft. Don't treat the actual women who work at your company with respect, but respect the fucking virtual paintings of women that are in WoW. Just what the fuck? This is pure PR firefighting stuff when they could just treat people right. I'm not sure if there is a picture. I think there was one at this link. Yeah, okay, so here's the picture. So on the left, cleavage. On the right, less cleavage, and also nowhere near as blurry. And then this one, which is probably even funnier. On the top, scantily clad woman. On the bottom, fruit. It's like, okay, sure, but also maybe do the thing that you're being sued about. Maybe deal with that first. You're not being sued because there's some titties in World of Warcraft. That's not the problem. Okay. And then some actual good stuff. Celebrating its recent reveal, Project Eve's director has bought 260 PS5s for his staff. So, if you are in the market for trying to get a PS5, sorry, the Project Eve's director has bought a ton of them. There's a picture of them being wheeled into the offices and then placed at everybody's desk, and that's just really nice. That's just a really, like, good job, everybody. We probably had to crunch like fucking crazy to get that trailer ready for the PS5 showcase, but well done, everybody. Here's like a very brief GIF, pretty much, of the game. You may remember it. It was the very anime-looking Bayonetta future Dark Souls looking thing. It looks cool. I really want to play it. So that was the news for the 13th to the 19th of September 2021, 3 times now. Anyway, finally got to the end of this video. I think the microphone is popping as well, so I'll probably have to adjust the audio. Apologies if it's very loud. I don't know what's going on. There's so much shit is happening with this microphone. Anyway, let me know what you thought. Fairly quiet week. I imagine most developers are head down getting stuff ready for October, November. Games coming out then. The Christmas period is typically busy for game releases, but not typically busy for announcements and updates and that kind of thing. So I imagine that next couple of months these videos will probably be shorter with not much to talk about. We'll see how it goes. Elsewhere on the channel, I played a bit of Golf Club Wasteland. Got a key from Untold Games, so thanks for that. The video was kind of short, and that's kind of partially my fault and partially just the game itself. It's a kind of puzzle-based golf game that has a bit of a social message going on behind it, and you're playing in the wastelands of former Earth civilization. So there's a lot of like messaging going on there, but also the game is kind of short, and I just didn't want to show off too much of it. You know, I didn't want to spoil too much of the game, even though the embargo said you're fine to do it. But still, I don't like doing that. I know if you want to play, I could show you the game and then you guys go off and get it if you're interested in it, or I'll LP it a good while later when it's been out for a while. But yeah, I think I should probably, instead of like usually when I do like 4-bit games, I play them from the start and then I play for whatever length of time I feel is appropriate and then stop. So I don't really cut out anything unless I'm having to redo something or something like that. Whereas with Golf Club Wasteland, I should probably have actually chopped it up a bit so that you guys could see some of the later levels in kind of isolated, so you didn't have any of the context or whatever of the story. I think that probably would have helped more, because it does get like the levels do get very complicated after a while, and I think the ones I showed off were fairly simple. So that's a bit of a learning experience for me. I guess I should not every game is, I can't approach every game the same way, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. I'll be continuing A Plague Tale. Probably double up on that this week. The next part will probably be very short, so I'll probably do 2 parts instead. We will be coming into the spooky month soon, and I would like to do a spooky game for October. We'll probably have to do it with A Plague Tale, because I don't think it'll be done by then. But we'll see. I don't actually know what game it will be yet, so if you have a suggestion, something spoopy and something fun, and preferably something with a narrative focus to it that I can rip the piss out of, instead of like like not Phasmophobia or something like that, because one, it's on PC and it's early access, and I have no interest in games until they're out of early access. But I prefer a game with a storyline that I can play. That's just me. That's the way I want to do it. So if you have a suggestion, let me know. Otherwise, I will think of something, I'm sure. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. My throat is extremely raw. I'll see you next time.